Here we are on part 3 of chapter 5, where we're going to put in some calculated fields, work on some filtering, and then change our style of our pivot table. First thing we need to do is to add some reports to our filter area. So I'm going to click on the pivot table. Over here, let's grab materials and move that to the filter. Now, before I drop it, notice in A1 and B1, there's nothing. As soon as I drop the filters, I now have new filter information. Click on the filter in B1, select multiple items. This will give us the ability to select or unselect anything here. Being that I have a lot that I want to unselect, it's easier just to say select all and click canvas and leather and say OK. Now my table is filtered only by those two categories. You can also go a little bit further and select the down arrow on type in B3 and we'll select the unisex, the U, so that we only have men and women items here. And then we'll click the OK. Make sure you are inside the pivot table somewhere so that you have your pivot table analyze. We're going to go ahead and select that. And we're going to add a slicer. Now what a slicer is just a cool little way of filtering your data. We want to filter everything by category, so I'm going to select category and click OK. Now notice, whenever I click in a category here, it will filter the table by that category. But let's say I want to filter by only, like say take one off, like we don't want backpack on there. So I click the icon, make it active, and I can unselect backpack, and then I can select again. Now only my backpack is unselected, but if that icon is not selected and I select backpack, only backpack populates. Another way to do this is to hold down your control key, select the items that you want. Now in my instructions, I say hold your control key and select backpacks, let go of your control key. Notice that it's not blue anymore, meaning that it's not in the list, so we have unfiltered it. So we could either use the icon, use control, either way will get you there. Now let's format our buttons. Over here, it's one column. I want two columns, so there I have two columns. On my button width, make sure you're on the width. I'm going to select this as 1. Make my button a little bit bigger. For the size of this whole overall box, I'm going to change the height here to 1.3. And I'm going to come just right over here in the size group, 1.3. And now my slicer is the size that I want it. Lastly, I will change the filter color. So I'm going to go to Style, click the More arrow. And let's do the first one in under dark. Move this over to F1. That way it's off the top of my table and I can add a calculated field. I don't see my Analyze tab, so I need to click inside of my table. Then I can go to Pivot Analyze, allowing me to go into the calculations and the field items and set. And we're going to add a calculated field. We're going to name that calculated field Designer Royalties. And click Tab. For this one, we want to take our total bag sales, which if I look down here, I have to scroll all the way down, total bag sales, double click, populates. I'm going to multiply that. So the Shift 8, or if you have the little keypad, looks like a multiplication, times 0.1. Now 0.1 is 10%. So we're going to multiply that times 10%. Click OK. Right now, if I look over here in C5, it says sum of designer royalties, and I want to rename that. So I click in cell C5, come over here to my field settings. In the custom name, I'm going to get rid of sum of. Now, if I hit enter right here, I get an error message. Why? Because it says the file name already exists, or for the pivot table name. So what I'm going to do is right behind the S, I'm just going to give it an apostrophe so that it says all the designer's royalties. And I'll click OK. Renamed it here in C, renamed it here in E. Click off of my table so I can go find my slicer. I'm going to move that down here to A12. Click inside my table, then I get my table fields back. Let's format our heights of our rows here and our information in, let's go B5 through E5. On my Home tab, I want to center the information, so I'll center. Then I will text wrap, so that way if my columns become a little narrower, I can go to a different height. And to make that height where I can see it, let's double the height of our row height. By default, it's 15. Let's make that 30. Click OK. With the area still selected, we're going to click on Format again, and let's format the column width to 12. Click OK. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Next, let's make a copy of this sheet so we can take our filters off. So down the bottom, I'm going to right click and select move or copy. Let me move this up. I want my sheet to go after the pivot table, and it doesn't say after, it says before, so I'll say bag data. So it goes before here, and I need to make sure I select create a copy. Otherwise, it will just move my sheet. It won't create a copy. And I'll click OK. On this new sheet, let's go ahead and start clearing out some of our filters. So on material, let's see if I unselect this one. Click OK. I have all the materials back. Let's get rid of the one in category. So click category and I'll say clear the filter from the category. That works. Down here in my pivot table, let's grab the designer royalties calculated field, just drag it off and get rid of that one. And let's delete the slicer. Now I can click any cell inside of my table. So I can go back to my pivot analyze tab up here. And I want to go to the field settings box. Now what I want to do is I want to show the values as a percent of row total. And I'm going to do that by clicking this right here. It says show values as. It's a little tab. It doesn't look like it, but it is. Grab the drop down arrow and say percent of row total. Click OK. Now each row is 100%. So 100% of the backpacks. And I can see the men's category and the women's category and how much each one of them made up for that. And I have 100% of each. However, maybe I want to see what does each one represent against my grand total sales. So I can go back in here, go show values as, drop this down in percent of grand total. Now I don't have 100% here, but I only have it in the grand total down at the bottom. But I can see what each category made up of my overall sales for the store. Let's go ahead and change the style here. So I'm going to click on the design tab. Click on the more arrow. Well, before I do that, let me show you something that could be on the Moss exam. And I've seen this several times. It might tell you to color each column or each row a different color. Now, if it says each row, just come up here, click in your table, come up here to the design and click on banded rows. And each one's a different color. If you click banded columns, each one's a different color. So that could be on the Moss. It's really simple. It's just a matter of clicking a button. All right, so let's go ahead and format this the way I wanted it. I think I said the medium light orange pivot style 3, and I want banded columns on this one. So I'll go ahead and select banded columns, and I'll see you on the next video.